This week, a whistleblower who was told by higher up that despite the fact there was evidence, there was no ability to go off and give serious charges to Hunter Biden because of the money that may well lead to Joe Biden, has been big news in the United States. Our friend Dave Rubin is across it as the walls close in on Swampy Joe.
Well, Paul, unfortunately, the walls are not closing in because he's a Democrat. And as I often talk about, there's only one privilege in America. It's not white privilege. It's not male privilege. It's Democrat privilege. And that's exactly what Joe Biden has. I mean, he really is embroiled in a couple scandals right now. I mean, first, there's just his mental acuity scandal, which I really do believe is a scandal. Everyone knows that there is something cognitively wrong with the guy. I have sympathy for that. I've had family members, grandparents going through that kind of thing, and it's very sad, but there's something going on there. That's a type of scandal. The scandal that I think is a little more dangerous in terms of legality is what's going on with his son. We know that Hunter last week, he pled guilty to some tax evasion stuff, which he's not going to jail for. So it was a full slap on the wrist, just kind of a dog and pony show. And they don't do anything related to him working at Burisma. You got to remember, this is a crack addict who had no expertise in Ukrainian energy or any other energy, making $83,000 a month to consult for a Ukrainian energy company while his dad was vice president. It's hard for Americans to believe that our three-letter agencies, the CIA and the FBI, that they could be so politicized. We'd like to believe that they are following where they're supposed to go. So, if a Democrat does a crime, we're going to look into that, and we'd look into it equally if a Republican did, and vice versa, and everything else. Unfortunately, that's not the way that it sounds like it's going, and that there were some punitive punishments on this whistleblower, and now there might be more than one whistleblower. I mean, we're going to find out more on this, I suppose. But the weird thing is, we're a year and a half out from this election. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is making some inroads. The Democrats are deeply banged up. They don't have a great bench. The fact that they're still pushing this guy despite all of this really tells you that they don't know what direction to go in.
All right, now let's talk about RFK, where, look, he is going up in the polls. And look, the reality is I understand why people are attracted to him. I understand that he really is trying to go to anyone that isn't, mainstream media to try to get his message out. But the reality is that the Democrats are going to rig the primary, just as they did for Hillary, as they did for Joe towards the end through 2020. They've front-loaded things, which means places like South Carolina and the states that are dominated by African-American voters that Biden seems to be able to have a hold on, means he's not really going to get out of first gear. But what do you think of his candidacy, and what does it say?
Well, it's been very refreshing to hear a Democrat that's not completely insane, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not a Democrat anymore. I was most of my life. But I do still hold some what I would say are classically liberal principles. And if the Democrats could return to a party of, say, his uncle, John F. Kennedy Jr., that would be something that would be far more in line with my values of today and what I think are more traditional American values: limited government, lower taxes, not getting into these adventurous wars, not so many state secrets, things of that nature. So I think he's hitting the right tone. I think the problem is the base. The progressive base and the corporate press, they hate the guy. I mean, they're giving him the Trump's treatment right now. He's being treated as if he's Donald Trump or other scary right-wingers like, Ron DeSantis or Elon Musk, or even someone like me. So, yeah, I think the DNC will do anything possible to handicap him. And even if Biden falters, they will figure out a way to ignore, right now I think he's polling, 20-25%, which is very significant, actually, going against an incumbent president. But I think they would do anything possible to just push him aside, and you figure out how to install Gavin or somebody else, because they're not going to put Kamala out there either. I promise you that.
Yeah, bloody oath. All right, so let's end on a positive here. Your man DeSantis, he went to the border and he promises to go even harder than Trump did.
It was refreshing. It was refreshing. We've seen in the 2+ years of the Biden administration, we've seen our border, in essence, is open. Robert F. Kennedy, who we just mentioned, he went to the border about 2 weeks ago, did a selfie video, hundreds of people. He started listing the countries. He was asking them, what countries are you guys coming from? It's not like they're all coming from Mexico. They were coming from quite literally all over the world. So we have, in essence, an open border, and Ron DeSantis has basically said, I am going to run on accomplishing the things that Donald Trump only promised to do. We are actually going to build the wall. We are actually going to deal with the 12 million illegals that are here. We'll have to figure out a way to do it. If cartels are on their way in, we're actually going to use the military to stop them. I think people are ready for somebody that actually is going to do the things that he says he's going to do. And as I always tell people when it comes to DeSantis, I mean, whether you like DeSantis or not, he does what he says he's going to do. I can't think of one example, maybe you can, Paul, but I can't think of one example of him saying, this is what I'm going to do, this is my goal, and then not accomplishing it. So there's every reason to believe that he could go out there and do what Donald Trump set out to do in 2016.